It's already on.
Yeah. Hey, we're coming on live, and we're on the podcast, The Baseball Guys. We're with one of the hosts of the Baseball Guys podcast, Larry Howser. So, Larry, welcome to the Baseball Guys.
Glad to be here.
Awesome. He said, "Are we ready?" And I said, "Yes, we're ready." So we don't have our other baseball guys with us, but we thought we would introduce this to our community. Because on a weekly basis, we're going to get three baseball guys together to talk baseball. One's a Mets fan, one's a diehard Braves fan, one's a converted Yankees Braves fan. So we'll have a little bit of Yankees history along with the desire to follow the Braves. So Larry, tell our viewers that haven't listened to a previous podcast who you are, what you do, and what you like.
Yeah, my name's Larry Howser, and originally from West Palm Beach, Florida, and grew up in a baseball family. My oldest brother, Dick Howser, went to FSU. As a matter of fact, he went to FSU the year I was born, so I came along a little bit later in life, not later in my life, later in everyone else's life. So people say,
Yes.
"Oh, so you were a mistake." And I say, no, I don't, not so much a mistake, maybe as a liability or a burden. But
yes,
yeah,
there's always come that has got to be an interesting question. Like when they see the gaps in families,
right.
They don't think about it, but they'll ask that.
Right.
So were you like a mistake,
I
or
don't
were
know.
you
I wasn't
playing?
there, you know. I came along a
That's
little
kind
too
of.
late to.
I know. What do you say when?
Do you ask your parents?
Yeah.
Was I a mistake? Yeah, you certainly were. I think you've lived up to that. All the expectations. You made a mistake.
Well, how did you overcome that stigma?
I never have, actually.
Okay.
I'm still
okay.
Yeah.
So
will still refer to me as walking mistake.
That has to have had a scar on you. Did you
Apparently
at that time think about okay, they say things, sometimes people say things and they don't know what they're saying.
No.
So would you use humor when people would say things like that? Because I always
either humor or just a straight right, to the jaw. But no, it never even came into being any kind of phasing or anything. I guess it's a legitimate question, but I guess it's just people's natural reaction. But and then I had a brother, Tommy, who was a year younger than Richard, and a lot of people said he was a better athlete than Richard was. So he broke into the big leagues. Richard did it in 1961 with the Kansas City Athletics. He made the All-Star team. They had two All-Star games back then, one in San Francisco and one in Boston. And he got to pinch hit in the game in San Francisco. It was actually my 7th birthday, I guess. We were up in Virginia, where my dad was from. But he was in the game where there was a famous incident. They had high winds in Candlestick Park. But Stu Miller, a little lefty, was on the mound, and he went to go into his lineup, and he actually got blown off the pitching rubber.
Wow!
So that was quite a thing growing up with a brother in the big leagues for from 61 to about 67, 68. Then there came a coaching opening, third base coach for the Yankees. Frankie Crossetti, who'd been the third base coach for 29 years. Was going to move to San Diego. San Diego Padres came into the league as an expansion team. So he took that job for a year. So my brother was about 31, 32 years old. Actually, he was 29 years old for about 3 years, because back then, the difference between being in your 20s and 30s was a big deal. So Ralph Houck was the manager of the Yankees then. He told my brother, he said, "Dick, listen, there's this opening for third base coach. You really should jump on it, because you're about at the end of the line." He was a utility player at that point. So he became the third base coach for the Yankees, and he coached third base all during the kind of lean years in the early 70s. And then finally, when the Yankees got a lot better, they won their first pennant in 1976. It was the first pennant in about 18 years, maybe. A really strong Yankee fan would know how many years that was. But that was they won it in 76. The Reds beat them in the World Series, and they got Reggie Jackson, Catfish Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really a heck of a team. And then they beat the Dodgers in the World Series in 77 and 78. That was 77 was the year Reggie hit the 3 home runs in one game in Game 6. But
Dang.
yeah, it was quite a thing being you feel like you're affiliated with it, you're close with it during your whole life. So yeah, baseball was just a huge part of our family's life.
You told me a couple of stories, but before I ask you about a Weight Watcher story that you shared with us, I want to comment on the Reggie Jackson, because the 3 home runs, I was working for Curtis Candy Company, or Planters Peanuts. And that's the year after those 3 home runs, they approached Reggie, I guess, they had a Reggie bar.
A Reggie bar, yeah.
Yeah, and so I sold Reggie bars.
Oh, did you?
Well, way back when. A lot of Reggie bars, and a lot of them came back.
Right. A lot of them were thrown onto the field at times.
It
if you had 3
click.
Strikeouts. Yeah.
It just didn't take off. So
not as big as Baby Ruth.
No. And everybody would ask, so was this named after Babe Ruth? I said, nope. Yeah. So, you did have those candy stories, but I want to get back to our Weight Watcher story.
But now, Yogi Berra, the cartoon character Yogi Berra was named after Yogi Berra.
Wow.
Yeah.
Never knew that.
And I think he tried to sue him. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I always like to look at why people do things. Right. And so Oprah was attached to Weight Watchers. I think she might still be. And so if you're a guy, they're not knocking on your door for any weight loss,
well, you got to seek them out.
Yeah. So tell us your one Yogi Berra weight loss.
We went out to dinner. I got to eat dinner with Yogi Berra 3 different times. The first time we went to a pizza place in Jersey. We were visiting mostly to see ball games at Yankee Stadium, but we went out to a pizza place. And so the waitress came up, and it was, we made our orders, and Yogi's turn to order. And he said, I think I'll have a large pizza with everything on it and a pitcher of beer. And the waitress says, well, do you want it cut in 8 pieces or 16? And he said, you better make it 8. I'm on a diet. Yeah. It's a classic Yogi.
I love it. Did you feel like when you were at him those 3 times that was his natural instinct to just kind of have fun with people?
Yeah. Yogi was, and I don't know if anybody's seen the documentary. If you haven't seen it, I believe it's on Netflix, but it's called It Ain't Over. But no, he was the real deal from day one. I mean, there was no pretense. People were a little bit different back then, maybe. He was actually he was at the invasion of Normandy. He was in the Navy. I think he enlisted in the Navy at age 16 or 17. He was at Normandy that day in one of those smaller ships that launched missiles, onto the beach. But, came from St. Louis, small town kind of guy, and just rocketed to stardom through just hard work and perseverance and of course, natural ability. But just a great person. His wife, Carmen, was even nicer. Everyone loved them both. What you saw is what you got,
Yeah. I like when you have those stories you're just sharing about people we know, but we don't know.
Right.
Like behind the scenes, are they like that?
Yeah.
And so when you had a chance, when your brother was coaching, who else did you have a chance to engage with? Because obviously being your brother, he would invite you up and hang out with people. What was that experience like?
Oh, it was great, for a young man to go in the clubhouse, in the locker room before the games, and sit in the dugout, not during the games, but before the games, and meet Billy Martin, and met Reggie a couple times, and just all those guys. I mean, obviously a lot of different personalities, for the most part, a good bunch of guys. We're not going to badmouth anybody today. We've
Yeah.
got plenty of stories, like that. But yeah, just really to see them, before the game, just, pretty much regular guys. Of
Yeah.
course, back in the 70s, they weren't making, millions and millions of dollars. They were just starting to break that glass ceiling, so to speak. I don't know if you call it that, but yeah,
Income ceiling.
Yeah, before the really big money. But and every year was your contract year back then. There were no multi-year contracts hardly for anyone until they started signing, Andy Messersmith and the Catfish Hunters and Reggie and a few other guys. But no, it was a great experience.
Yeah, I got a chance. I mean, not meet him. We kind of meet him, but he was at a promotional intro for us when we were introducing it. So he was there. I don't even know if I shook hands with him, but he was, close enough in the room that you got to engage. And everybody was kind of excited because, you have regular candy bars and then you have it after a celebrity. And if you're a baseball fan, you always want like a character behind something and then see that person, on a regular basis. So not regular basis, but, every time I sold a bar, I kind of like thought of those 3 home runs, it's kind of like just the way you associate. What would you say, like in growing up in a baseball family and kind of, I know you have grandkids out that have a desire for baseball. What do you kind of, that generation that's coming down the line, what are you seeing with your grandkids?
Even with the, kids in high school, they're just so much more talented now, just with the physical aspects of the game. And, you get a lot more practice in, you've got the technology. I mean, we talk about what we would have given just to see ourselves on video, to see ourselves hitting, because it's a totally different view. But yeah, the kids out in Jackson Hole, we got Hank, Carl, and Dansby, and then their older sister Willa, who's a skier and a bit of a bookworm. But those boys, they would play baseball 8, 10, 12 hours a day if you let them. And you just see, is there such a thing as baseball DNA? I don't know. But there's so many things that are controlled by DNA. Of certainly athletic ability, especially to me, hand-eye coordination is probably one of them. But it's different with people, I like baseball. It's fun to watch, fun to play. But then there's other people who are just like ate up with it, is what we used to say, just completely immersed. And, is that a good thing? I think it is if you can, kind of temper it. I think certainly if you can get a college education out of it, maybe play a little professional ball. Not many people make it to the big leagues. You got to be, not only exceptional, but willing to put in the time and the work and then the perseverance to make it to where very few guys make it. Yeah.
Yeah. When you look at, we had on our podcast last week, Eric Watson, who played basketball at Kennesaw Mountain. And then he went on to play at Maryville, which is up near Tennessee.
Right.
Got numerous championships. He had, the day I met him, I looked down and I saw these rings. I went, holy mackerel. It looked like your typical Super Bowl type ring.
Right.
So we started talking and, that was kind of a topic of what did it take to make it to the professional ranks? Because he made it to play in Romania and then he played in Brazil before he's back here in Kennesaw on a career. And we talked about the mindset, that the dedication that an athlete has to have to make it to the professional ranks. He now has a thing called the Winner's Creed. And so I'd asked him before that, like, what was really kind of, if you had to say a word or two, and it was like discipline and, work ethic.
Right.
So, he had a thing, and I don't remember the numbers, but it had to do with 3-pointers. He was a guard.
Okay.
He wouldn't sit out the 3-pointer and have to make like 100 in a row or something like
right.
that. And you think about what it takes, because everybody else might be off playing, having a good old time, and he's in high school, and you have to have that dedication to sit there and repeatedly work out when everybody's having fun, and you're sitting there just practicing your trade, not knowing where this is going to go. Outside of what I really admired about him was the dedication that he had at an early age to make it. And he said on the podcast that at age, I think it was 6th grade, he had a professional basketball player that came to speak at his school. And the guy, had the basketball in his hand. He said, "This basketball ball can take you around the world."
Yeah.
And he said that stuck out in his mind, like, what? A basketball? And you're a 6th grader, so you probably don't know half the countries outside the United States, but somebody impresses him that he at that time made a decision to just take that basketball to the highest level. Okay. And now he has 5 rings. He's set a conference scoring record, numerous championships up there. He goes to Brazil, he goes to Romania, plays at a high level, and he's now transferring that into his career.
Right.
So to your question about where will it go, nobody knows.
Right.
But what we do know, that with your grandkids out there and they're playing baseball, they're skiing, they're doing things that kind of shapes the discipline. Yeah, right before we came on the air, Larry was showing me his youngest, Dansby, 22 months, adorable, throwing the ball at a door. It's just like you see 22 months and you see after that he's throwing a fastball sideways, and it's just like that desire to play something that at 22 months, you just don't think that somebody will be attracted to a sport.
Right.
So tell our viewers, I love that story you said about, you'll go out there for hours, you'll be practicing in the they
have a trampoline with a net around it. Pretty good sized trampoline. And Hank and Carl love getting in there with their gloves and just bouncing up and down. I'll throw pop-ups and fly balls, and okay, Freddie Freeman's up. Here's a fly ball to right, and Acuna's back, and they jump, and they're fighting and wrestling over the ball, and they'll do that for upwards of 3 hours.
Wow.
Just never get enough of it, and hopefully they won't be burned out at age 13. But just to it goes from, like you were talking about, just okay, we're having so much fun, and then it kind of develops into, okay, this could really be something I could do, at least go to college, maybe play a little pro ball. But then comes the work ethic and the discipline. And also, you have to have some decent coaching along the way.
Yes.
But if you can kind of blend all those things, marry those things together in any sport or aspect of life, I guess, mathematics, whatever. You can definitely make a world for yourself, so to speak.
Yeah. I think anything we do, discipline and work ethic are 2 things that we want our kids to learn at an early age, because, if you do learn those fundamentals of working hard, whatever the sport is, I mean, they could go, and I tried to get my girls into golf and it didn't work. They played softball, one played lacrosse. And so went on from softball to lacrosse, but you want them to play what you played, but it doesn't always work out that way. Right. So, but you want them to just be able to develop that team, that competitiveness, that work ethic, that discipline, because no matter where they go, they can take those skills, whether it's a sport or just a a career in business
Mhm.
and apply those principles,
Right.
and they're going to be better
Yeah,
off.
so much of, when you're on a team with the same guys for a year or two, the camaraderie that develops,
Yeah.
it can't even be described or replaced.
Yeah.
You still remember those people that you played with, 40, 50 years ago sometimes. And the other thing that you mentioned, competition, I know that Bill Belichick, watching him speak, he just talks about you need to go out and compete.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he must have used that term, a dozen times in 15 minutes. Compete. It's important to compete. Now, there's people, and we know people like this. I love to play whatever it might be, cards or, ping pong.
Mm-hmm.
You want to win. But then there's other people that have that competitive nature that they do not want to lose.
Right.
There was an old saying back in the 30s and 40s, and it was in regard to pitchers and doctoring the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And the saying was, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Really?
And funny enough, that's the new campaign slogan for the Joe Biden reelection campaign. So I'd throw that in there.
Hey, yeah, right. We got to have a little fun with our because
You
life
better.
is too serious.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, way too serious.
Yeah. I don't know that Biden intentionally tells jokes because I don't know he knows where the punchlines are.
Right. Yeah. It's tough.
That's a
It's
difficult
tough
thing.
when you got it all working.
Yeah, because you're reading the teleprompter, and we had a comedian on, and he brought a script, and so he was reading from the script the whole time.
Huh.
And so,
was it funny?
Well, let's just say we didn't ask him back. So I won't say. I'll keep it just right there.
You gave it 1 star.
Yeah, we'll I think there's room to improve.
Okay.
Is what. But here I want to ask you a question. I don't think I've ever asked you this. So you're a baseball guy. Your brothers are baseball people. Primarily, it's a guy sport. Of course, you got raising girls. What did you want them to be in the sport of baseball or softball, or how did you handle like your love of baseball and 3 girls? Like, what was their choice of activities to do?
Yeah, they were, they liked to go out in the street, play kickball, and we had a neighbor with trampoline, and they were pretty active. I never really pushed it on them.
Yeah.
Even softball, I feel like, people are going to go into as kids a direction that whatever they like.
Yeah.
So, even with, even with 3 girls, people would say, "Oh, I know you're disappointed you didn't have a boy," and that was not the case at all. When you're there for the birth of a child, it never even crossed my mind. And you know what? You gotta love little girls, right?
Yes.
I mean, they don't come any better than that. But no, it didn't really even. Now they're all, Braves fans to whatever extent. We follow the Braves pretty closely, and they do enjoy baseball, and they know it, understand it. And but yeah, as far as even a little nudge, no, not really. Yeah.
Well, I want to respect your partners that are going to be on here. Jim Raps, he's a Mets fan, and he says he's staying a Mets fan. He's not gonna come over to the
no matter how often
Braves,
they lose. Yeah.
But it is his second team, so we
Right.
figured that would be good. And Bob Kelly is definitely all the way Braves. Right. So what we want our viewers to recognize, and I want you to share this with people who have an interest in baseball, is they'll talk baseball.
Right.
And so everybody has to have like their favorite team. And so it's so cool to see, where we grow up, what we're exposed to. Just all those elements go into your favorite team.
Right.
So we want our viewers to know it'll be baseball focused. And so before we go, we're gonna let our viewers know about a special event coming up. So this event is going to be coming up at Grace Church, which is Wednesday, May 22nd at 6 p.m. That's Ken Kington there on the screen. if you've been in Atlanta, you know of Ken Kington.
Mm-hmm.
See the hand motions?
That's him.
That's
over
Ken.
there.
He usually uses that same hand motion when he's on stage.
Oh, does he?
However, we have two others that will be performing that night.
Melissa Sarathi.
Yes. Thank you for pronouncing her name right.
Sure.
I am trying to work my brain around.
Yeah. I call her Kathy.
Yeah.
She said, do I remind you of someone named Kathy? I said, no, I'm just going to call you Kathy.
That is good.
With a C. Kathy with a C.
Yes. Sarathi. Dang, I've got it down now.
Good.
And because this is a night that we want you to bring your aging parents a date. This is date night with mom and dad, mom or dad, or both.
Great idea.
Anybody that's a senior citizen, bring them so they can laugh. We need to laugh. We need to enjoy things. And
who'll be hosting that?
Well, we're negotiating with them right now, and if we can sign that contract,
there's free food, so I'll be there.
Okay. All right. Well, we were wondering whether we would have the dollars to afford your contract.
You can definitely afford it.
So we'll sign it today.
I'll be hosting.
Okay.
Yeah, so come on out.
Larry will be there. He's going to lead off at 6.
It's clean comedy.
Yes.
It's smart comedy. And who knows? It may even be funny. We don't know.
Well, when you live as a senior, it's a fun, cool age. And if you can't have fun and laugh at yourself, and I know, because this is just my observation, I've known you for about a year, and I would ask you about.
Seems longer, right?
Yeah, it does. It does. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but the cool thing about it is, I know how many times your daughters have rolled their eyes.
And they're not dad jokes.
I know. They're just like, they're just, when you have girls, I think you have to build in humor, because girls are completely different than raising boys.
Right.
And so you have to have a good sense of humor.
Yeah.
And so to see what is the dynamics of your family, and also to see Lauren married a guy like you. I mean,
don't say that to David.
That is so good. Okay, let me tell you one little story.
I did not say that, Lauren or David.
This is my observation. This is independently.
Right. Yeah.
Larry had no idea I was going to say it. No. So here I go I'm leaving the church I was at, and I'm church shopping. Mm-hmm. And this is
in the past, not right now.
This is 1 year and a half ago, something like that. So in my mind, a little bit of OCD, whatever you want to call it, 10 churches. I said, I'm going to go see 10 churches. I told the pastor, I said, look, I'm going to be on the secret shopper for greeters. I'm going to go around to 10 churches. Well, I went to 4. There we go, 4. Mm-hmm. And I passed this church right by the mall, right by Shogun and Patel's Market, because I go to PGA Superstore and I see this church, and I'm going, I look it up, and it was actually, I realized this the other day. It was when they used to have 2 services, and they went to 1. Mm-hmm. And I think it was that week that I looked at it, and I'm going, what is it? Like, then I went, 11 o'clock. That's late. I'm an early riser. What the heck? I'll go. So I go, and I sit on the front row, and here's this guy named David Black. And I'm telling you what, not only did he have pictures of his scripture and his message, he had one-liners, and I was in stitches because I just was never used to a pastor with a sense of humor.
Right. I wrote that stuff,
It's obvious because I'm sitting there trying to maintain myself, and he's throwing one zinger after not all the whole thing, but he's throwing enough that if you kind of drift for a second, bam, he throws another one, and he brings you right back to the point of his message. So
I've seen probably maybe 50 sermons that David's delivered, and not one of them is even mediocre. I mean, he's that good.
Yeah, I totally. I ended up not making it to the 5th church.
Right.
I
stayed. You stopped right there.
I stopped there because I said, okay, where's my next church? And I went, oh man, I want to hear what because it was a series. It was a series, and I was like, man, I want to hear what else he has, in the series that he talked about.
And you were impressed enough with the greeters
yes,
to become one.
Yes, and
now you is one.
Actually, it's crazy because Deborah was the greeter that
right,
day.
Right.
And I went like 9-10 months not
Deb.
knowing that she was the sister. I was like,
oh yeah.
All of a sudden, Owen came by and she said something about my nephew, or said something like that. And I looked at her and I said, what do you mean? Like, well, how's that work? Well, it works like this. David's my brother.
Yeah.
And I said, what? And it was kind of like a McFly moment, really.
Yeah.
Because I had just been talking, for 8 months, and you can't figure out, put one and one together there. But anyway, so that was a year and a half ago. And then that's where I guess the story is where
what was your point?
Yeah, I know. I got kind of lost. It's going to be Grace Church right by the mall, 6:00. Okay. So you got to pick up mom and dad early, bring them there. We'll have you home by 8:00, maybe 8:30 at the latest. So you'll be in bed at a good time.
Great food.
Yes.
And the show.
Hey, look, I want you to come for this reason. I mean, it's obviously for Ken. He's phenomenal. Melissa, oh my gosh, I could tell you.
Pretty funny for a woman.
Oh my gosh. And I won't. No comment.
That's kidding. I'm kidding.
I know.
She's not that funny.
She is like, hey Melissa,
Cleaning
you're gonna have to come on. You're gonna have to come on.
Yeah, come on.
Come on the comedy podcast.
You know anything about baseball, Melissa?
Yes. But it was funny because I was talking to Lauren about her, and she said, she comes to these like PTA meetings.
Yeah, they're moms at the same school.
Yeah. And it's so cool. Like I said, so I said, do you sense that she's like loaded with one-liners? She goes, oh yes. Oh yes. She like lets them rip sometimes, but you can tell that she just has that kind of mindset that she's has something on, but she goes, maybe I better not crack up every single comment I make. So she'll be on after Larry. We're going to take a break. We're going to introduce our 30 podcasters that will be doing it on a regular basis. So you're going to see the baseball guys at the same time every week. So you plan your days around, or I don't know.
Or not.
Yeah, exactly. You don't like baseball?
You don't like baseball, yeah.
Tune into some other ones.
Right.
We have lots of other
There's
ones.
Plenty of soccer ones. None of them are in English.
Yes, we want to accommodate our.
We also have a podcast that has paint drying.
Oh yeah. Oh, let me tell you about our Brazilian Connector podcast. She will be talking to our Brazilian. Yes,
that's
they
a
speak.
Lot.
She speaks Portuguese. I didn't even know that till about 5 months ago.
Right.
I thought, so you speak Spanish? She goes, no.
So you're from Portugal?
Yeah. No. Yeah. It's like, that is so, I'm 66 and I went 65 years not realizing that a country's primary language was Portuguese.
Right. Yeah.
And
public education.
I know. Yeah, that's true. So please get some tickets. Now you can go to, let me give you a place to go. Oh, we have a comment up here. Let me see who's commenting. PodcastPete. My son loves baseball. Kimberly. Oh my gosh. Kimberly, you rock. This girl is a sensation. And she was on the podcast. So I'll see you a little bit later. We should probably give a plug, but I don't know. Kimberly, thanks for that comment. Because how old's your son? We'll put that on a future one. You have to share this podcast because we might even have him on if he's old enough to kind of come on with the baseball guys. It would be wonderful.
Bring your glove.
Yes, we might do some, I don't know what we'll do.
Foul ball jokes.
Yes.
Who knows?
Thanks for coming. You know what, Kimberly? This is our first comment on the baseball guys. This is pretty good.
Favorable?
Yes.
Good.
Look, here it is right here for our viewers to see. We're real about our people.
Oh, here's another one.
Oh, really?
No. This couldn't be any better unless someone else was doing it. That's not that good.
Okay. That may be Jim Raps they're talking
Right.
about. That can't be you. Okay, so please come out. And before I got sidetracked there, I want to give you a place to get tickets because, when we bring on top talent, we have to pay them.
When are they coming?
They are coming right after you.
They're out in the hall.
Yes.
Hey, hold on.
Okay, right here, podcasterpete.com. It's not all about me, but this is where you get the tickets. Podcasterpete.com. It's a link tree. Link tree will take you to the first link. That'll be where you can get tickets. I think they'll be available today.
I'll be the missing link in case someone
Yes. And please, if you're a senior, we want to embrace our seniors. And so that's why I wanted to sign Larry to the ticket. And the ticket, it's all about seniors. It's all about inviting your kids. It's all about hanging out with your mom and dad, having some fun, laugh. And why do we do this? Because people have asked me this. We want to bring your kids with mom and dad, date night, plus meet our vendors because we know you're busy. We know, careers are busy, but you got to know your resources and what they're available because I live in this community and the average age is 80. Things change quickly and you got to know what resources you can trust to be able to help your mom and dad. So our vendors will be serving food and there'll be a book available, a resource book that'll have chapters in it, stories about your vendors. So you can say, hey, let me find out about Larry. Not that you're a vendor, but I'm just using you as an example. Right. But then that chapter will be in there and then it'll be tied to a podcast or 2 or 3 or 4. That way you can get to know people, know their stories, know a little bit about them, and have a resource.
One of our vendors, who'll be there that night, is what would you? I don't know the terminology that's acceptable now. A assisted living, rest home, type thing.
Memory care.
Well, that too. Yeah, but it's Shady Acres, and their motto is, "We care, so you don't have to."
I love it.
Just kidding. That is not a real.
That is definitely. If we don't laugh at ourselves, we don't have fun. What do you say? What was your saying? Laughter is food for the soul.
No, I never said that.
Oh, that was somebody else.
I think it was the best medicine, and you're going to get a big dose of it.
Okay.
The 22nd. Come on out.
All right. Appreciate you. Hey, look, Larry's got to move on. He's got some things to do, and Podcast Pete has got
talents out in the hallway.
Yes.
They're ready.
Please share this with your friends. Let people know that they can have a fun date, laugh, enjoy themselves, eat, fellowship, and learn about what's available out there. So, Larry, your closing comment before we go.
It's been fun. Thanks for having me on. We'll see you again next time on The Baseball Guys.
Yes, thank you. And also, we will have the Comedians podcast, and we'll be inviting our comedians, ones that are in our community that we want to bring you, their stories because. Do I
look like I lost weight?
Yes, you look really good. Dang. I tell you what.
I'm 5 years old. Huh?
I'm liking it. So come out and see Larry if he gains his weight back or if he's the same natural guy that you guys know.
Remember, free food.
Yes, come on out because we have some good food for you. Hot hors d'oeuvres. All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate you being with us.
See you.